So this was the idea of financial and capital account. But so the idea of financial account is it records inflow and outflow of financial assets, stocks, bonds, securities, right? So when Pakistan is selling more assets to, let's say, China, so when Pakistan is on like selling more assets to China, there would be inflow of funds from China to Pakistan, right? And capital account and financial account, it will, when inflows are there, when Pakistan is receiving money against the asset Pakistan sold to China, it will be recorded as a credit item, and uh, capital and financial account will be larger when home country sell more assets to foreign country. But when home country purchases more assets from any foreign economy, there would be capital outflow from the home country. Like capital outflow means funds are flowing out from home country to other country, and it is recorded as a debit in the uh, financial account. All right. Okay. So capital and financial account, capital account only includes unilateral transfers of assets. So you need to keep this in mind. Financial account, whenever there is financial inflow, it means that country is selling more assets to foreigner, and there would be credit. It would be recorded as a credit item into the balance of payments. And when a country is selling, like purchasing more assets from any foreign economy, there would be a financial outflow of funds from home country to the country from which the assets are purchased. So it would be recorded as a debit item, and with the negative sign. The last part of the financial account, or the component which is different from it's a part of financial account, but it is different. So we call it official settlement balance. So this is an account which is in control of central bank of a country, right? Central bank of countries use this account to build foreign reserves, foreign exchange reserves, right? And foreign exchange reserves are the currencies of trading partners. The assets, bank accounts in other countries. Like if we say, if we consider the reserve account of Central Bank of Pakistan, which is SBP, State Bank of Pakistan, Chinese dollar, bank accounts in China, US dollar, like Chinese RMB, US dollar, Japanese yuan, and all other kinds of assets are the reserve for the Pakistan economy. That is why we say that uh, transactions in official reserve assets are conducted by central banks of countries, and official reserve assets. All right. Official reserve assets include foreign government securities, bank deposits, and SDR. SDR means it's a basket of currencies specified by the IMF. Uh, it is counted as a reserve asset. Gold was earlier a reserve asset, which was used by central banks in conducting international transactions. So central banks can buy or sell official reserve assets with their own uh, currencies, right? So it means that Pakistani central bank can increase the amount of reserve when the country is able to generate more of money from foreign countries by selling goods. When a country is selling more goods to other countries, it can have more amount of money to purchase foreign securities, foreign bonds, and open bank accounts in other nations. So this is a way through which central banks build reserves. And countries where there's a scenario like imports are always larger than uh, exports, that country's central banks needs always are in need of having financial reserve in terms of dollar, because dollar is an international currency. So if a country is holding a larger stock of dollar, that particular country can afford to buy more imports and can afford to lend money to other nations as well, right? So this is the basic idea that you need to understand. Use so official settlement balance, which we call balance of payment account, uh, is in control of the central banks of countries. And when the official settlement reserve is positive, it means that when the official settlement reserve is positive, it means that the country's balance of payment is in surplus. So it means that if let's say here the example of United States is provided. If the net increase in official reserve asset is the rise in US government reserve assets minus. So we would interpret the increase in official reserve asset as the rise in home country's reserve assets minus the foreign central banks holding of our home country's currencies, our home country's assets. So if in a year uh, Pakistan has got more assets of all the foreign economies are the trading partners relative to what all the trading partners have got, we would be observing that our balance of payment will be in surplus, because we would be having more money to pay for to lend out to other nations and to pay for our imports if we have got larger imports. Having a balance of payment surplus means a country is increasing its official reserve assets. So balance of payment is in when balance of payment is said to be in surplus, it means that net holding of official reserve assets have increased in the home country. If balance of payment is in deficit, it means that uh, net holding of foreign assets in a country has been decreased. All right. So we also talked about the relationship between current account and capital account. We summarized this using an example. We said that if the current account of a country is in surplus, there would be equivalent amount of deficit that would be observed in capital and financial account. In this way, the sum of the current and capital and financial account will always lead to a value of zero. So we defined this using example. We said that suppose Pakistan is a home country and China is a foreign country, right? So let's take example of Pakistan and China. If Pakistan is, let's say, uh, exporting $100 goods to China, right? So Pakistan would there would be an inflow of funds from China to Pakistan, and Pakistan current account will increase by $100. But China's current account would decrease by $100. Right now, the $100 that Pakistani consumer, like Pakistani producer, earned, if that $100 is used by Pakistani resident or Pakistani producer for buying a good of, let's say, a product of China, so the same amount would be subtracted from current account, and net change in current account would be zero, and the equation will remain same. But if the Pakistani resident who earned $100 from China by selling goods, if that $100 is used for buying, let's say, Chinese asset, it would increase the capital and financial account of China by 100, and it would decrease the capital and financial account of Pakistan by 100, because there would be an outflow of funds from uh, Pakistan to China. And if $100 outflow is counted is ultimately bringing negative value of overall capital and financial account, and there would be a positive value of current account, the sum would always lead to zero. So this is how it works. And the last possibility that we described using another example was that if the $100 that Pakistani producer earned, if they are used by the Pakistani producer in such a way that he is willing to deposit that $100 into the bank, and that bank is ultimately uh, giving back that $100 to China, and China is giving 100 rupees. Let's say if we assume that rupees and dollar rate is same, which is not same in actual, but for simplicity we are assuming that they are it is same. So $100 rupees is when Pakistan is uh, giving back $100 to China. Pakistani bank is giving $100 to Chinese bank. Chinese bank in return of that is giving 100 rupees to Pakistan. So 100 rupees will be counted as inflow of funds into Pakistan. But if you talk about foreign reserve of Pakistan will fall. Ultimately, $100 inflow which is coming from China against the $100 that is being received by China, it would increase the capital and financial account by 100, and already the current account is rather, it would decrease when the funds are flowing out of the country. So let's when the funds are flowing out of the country, like because our central bank, our domestic bank is giving back the $100 to China, so it would decrease our foreign reserve, and a decrease in foreign reserve will decrease the capital and financial account by 100. And we know that export of 100 had brought $100 inflow into the Pakistan, so some would lead to zero. So this is how a positive, a surplus in current account will be offsetted by uh, the same value or the deficit with deficit of capital and financial account. Okay, ji? So this is how this relationship always hold in theory, but in practical we know that there are like difficulties in measurement. Sometimes the current account and capital and financial account does not sum to zero. So to make their sum to zero, statistical discrepancy is added. So let's say if current account is negative 100 and capital and financial account is positive 80, so capital and statistical discrepancy of positive 20 will be added to make the sum equal to zero, right? So this is how the relationship is observed in capital and financial account in theory and in practice. So you have a we had a discussion on like on a table, right? So we already talked about it, so I'm not going to repeat it because just all right. So we talked about in the beginning of the lecture. We also talked about net foreign assets and balance of payment. So we said that net foreign asset are a country's foreign assets minus liabilities. Now liabilities means the amount of assets owned by foreigners. So net foreign assets may change in value. We have already talked about it. So net increase in foreign assets equal to current account surplus. Uh, so what does this mean? This mean that if a country is having larger stock of foreign asset, so that is only possible when a country has a current account surplus. A country a current account surplus means the country has exported more than what it has imported, so which allowed the country to buy new foreign assets into other economies. Similarly, a current account surplus implies a capital and financial account deficit. Now you need to understand this. When current account surplus is when the current account is in surplus by, let's say, $1,000, so that $1,000 will be used by a country to buy foreign assets, and while buying foreign asset there would be outflow of $1,000 from home country to another country, which will ultimately lead to a financial account deficit of $1,000. That is why we are saying that a current account surplus implies a capital and financial account deficit. And as a result, uh, when there's a financial account deficit, it means that net holding of foreign asset is increasing. Contrary to this, a current account deficit means a capital and financial account surplus. Why? A current account deficit means a country is importing more than what it is exporting. So larger import, to pay for larger import, uh, they need some borrowing. So they are net borrower in the international market. So they are borrowing to pay for added imports. So the only way that they can borrow is by selling their assets to foreigner. And when they are selling for assets, their own assets to foreigner, there would be financial inflow of money into the country, and it would ultimately create a financial account surplus to offset the capital and current account deficit. So this is how the foreign assets and the balance of payment are interlinked with each other. All right, so we have already talked about this. I'm not going to now this summary is very important because in later discussion where we'll be describing the equilibrium. So this this is this has to be useful in our future discussion of the goods market equilibrium in a small open economy or even a large open economy. So what does this summary tell us? Equivalent measures of a country's international trade, how international trade and lending are interlinked with each other, because the emphasis of the chapter is on the two ideas: how international lending and borrowing are related to international trade, which means how import and exports are related with the lending and borrowing. So a current account surplus means all all are all, like a current account surplus means all these are the possible scenarios. If a country is running a current account surplus, it means that country has exported more than what it has imported. Now when a country has exported more than it has imported, it has additional amount of money which the country can use to buy assets from other nation, which means the country can lend out that money to foreigners. And this means that a current account surplus means that a capital and financial account deficit. Indirectly, which also means that uh, net acquisition of foreign assets, which means that if current account surplus is positive, capital and financial account must have to be in deficit by the same value. And when the current account is surplus, it means that country has got ability to acquire more of foreign assets, which is why we are saying that net acquisition of foreign assets is also increasing when the current account surplus is there. And which also provides us understanding that a current account surplus is equivalent to saying that a country is able to lend out funds to foreigners. That is why we are saying that net foreign lending will increase when the country is able to when the country has got a current account surplus. And similarly, if net exports are positive, it means that current account is surplus. So all are equal ways of all these four are equal ways of saying that current account is in surplus. For example, let's take a specific scenario to understand the relationship between current and capital account, current capital and financial account. So if a current account surplus of 10 billion is there, it means that home country exported uh, 10 billion more goods than what it has imported. So there would be current account surplus, and that current account surplus can be used to buy foreign assets. So when there's a purchase of foreign assets, financial inflow will be observed in financial account, and financial account will be debited by 10 billion. So we would say that a current account surplus of 10 billion means that a capital and financial account deficit of 10 billion to verify or to keep the relationship between capital and finance, to keep the inverse relationship between capital and financial account. That is why we are saying that a current account surplus is inversely related to capital and financial account, because a current account surplus is equivalent to capital and financial account deficit. Similarly, a country with current account surplus of 10 billion can is able to acquire new foreign assets of 10 billion. That is why we are seeing that net acquisition of foreign assets by 10 billion. In other words, we can say that the country having current account surplus of 10 billion can also use that 10 billion to lend out, to save in any other economy. Lending is equal to saving. So that is why we are saying that net foreign lending of 10 billion is equivalent to saying that uh, that we have current account. So this is the relationship between current and like these are equivalent measures of countries, international trade and lending. This is how international lending and borrowing and international trade are connected with each other using the balance of payment account framework. All right. We won't be talking about the application, so let's now turn our attention from uh, balance of payments concept to the goods market equilibrium in a small open economy. Now this is important because we are in this chapter, like now we are trying to build some basic idea of how the international lending and borrowing and international trade are interconnected with each other. So we'll be developing a model which is known as goods market equilibrium in a small open economy. So for that we need to go back. All right, so now we are going to talk about the goods market equilibrium in a small open economy. So we'll be talking about goods market equilibrium. Sorry for the writing, right? Because it's a new interface. Right? So goods market equilibrium in a small open economy. Now, why we are taking only the small open economy? There's a reason for it, right? So it's the small open economy. So first we need to talk about small open economy before we go for the large open economy. And what's the difference between large and small open economy? A small open economy is too small that its lending, its international trade and lending and borrowing are not going to affect the world real interest rate. So what does what is the role of world interest rate in our discussion? When you talk about the open economy, the world real interest rate is a variable that will be central in bringing the goods market of the open economy into equilibrium. Like we had a discussion in a closed economy where we said that it's the interest rate that will be central to bring the equilibrium into the goods market. So it would be open economy, right? So goods market equilibrium into small open economy. Now earlier we had a discussion like desired saving must always need to be equal to desired investment. So this was a condition for the closed economy. But when you talk about open economy, there's an external sector that we have been discussing from the beginning of our chapter. So for the open economy, the goods market equilibrium condition would look like this. Desired saving must be equal to desired investment plus current account. So if you just remember this from this equation, which we call, let's say B, from your previous GDP's chapter, this is similar to the uses of savings. So desired savings can be used to finance the purchase of new capital, which is the investment, and desired saving can also be used to finance the current account balance. But here we have assumed that current account is equal to the net exports. It means that uh, we are assuming that the net factor payment and net unilateral transfers both are zero. All right. So we can rewrite the equation B as desired saving must be equal to desired investment plus the net exports. So this is the equilibrium condition of open economy that we'll be using in our discussion. So this is the way of explaining it. Now you can also represent the same equilibrium condition using the aggregate demand and aggregate supply idea. So we would say that in an open economy, the goods market equilibrium looks like this, right? So it would be desired consumption plus desired investment plus government spending plus the net exports. Now you can see here that this is earlier aggregate demand in the closed economy, but in open economy we have external sector, so we would be using this net export as a part of aggregate demand, right? So this you can call this as equation you can term it as equation D, right? But but another way of looking at this is if this Y is aggregate supply, if you just subtract the you just subtract desired consumption plus desired investment plus government purchases, what you are going to get, you would get net lending or the net exports, right? Now what does this mean? This is domestic demand, this is domestic demand, and this is domestic output. So if nx is positive, what does this mean? If nx is positive, it means that aggregate supply is greater than aggregate demand. So I'll be sharing these written notes in PDF form with CR, and CR will be sharing with you. CR, in last, you need to drop the email in the chat so that I can send it to you. All right. So do you got the idea that if in a year, this is known as absorption, this aggregate demand, the desired consumption by domestic individual, the desired investment by businesses in the country, and government purchases, adding all three, is this is equal to desired absorption. If the current production is greater than the desired absorption, which is equivalent to saying that if in a year aggregate supply is greater than aggregate demand, right, net export will be positive. It is equivalent to saying that current account will be in surplus, because we earlier said that current account is equal to net export, and positive net export means that current account is in surplus. All right. So alternatively, we can say that if net exports are negative, this implies that in the current year, the demand in the domestic economy is greater than the aggregate supply, which means that uh, the country is going to import more, for country is going to import more because aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply. and current account is in deficit. So this is the equilibrium condition that we need to show using the diagram. So this is the uh, theoretical idea. Now we'll be representing the theoretical condition using some graphs. So if we just go back to our slides. All right, so this is the equilibrium condition in this equilibrium condition of goods market in the open economy, but we are specifically focusing on the small open economy. Now we need to make another assumption for explaining the small open economy. Uh, if we said that international lending and borrowing of a small open economy, international lending and borrowing of a small open economy is not going to affect the world real interest rate. It means the world real interest rate would stay the same for the small open economy. Now there's a concept of capital market. Capital market is a market where individuals, businesses, and governments of one country can borrow money from the individual businesses and governments of another country. So it's a market where international lending and borrowing basically takes place. So we are assuming that the because the small open economy is too small to affect the world in real interest rate, we would be saying that this is the 5.4 is the equilibrium condition. So we would be making an assumption that businesses and individuals of one country can borrow, small businesses and individuals of a small open economy can borrow from other countries at a fixed world real interest rate. Why it is fixed? Because we earlier assumed that small open economies, international lending and borrowing and trade cannot affect the world real interest rate. So real interest rate and the domestic economy's real interest rate would stay the same. It means that no borrower from the home economy will be willing to borrow at a lower interest rate than the world real interest rate, and similarly, no lender will be willing to give us money lower than the uh, world real interest rate. So it means that real interest rate would remain same for the domestic lenders and borrowers. So we have talked about this. This is the 5.5 is equilibrium condition using aggregate supply and aggregate demand, and NX is the net export equal to the output minus absorption by, this is the domestic demand, CD plus ID plus G, because CD represents the individuals or households aggregate consumption. This is aggregate investment by business, and this is the government purchases, which we assume to remain fixed. Now, small open economy and small open economy means an open economy, an economy that is too small to affect the world real interest rate. So the world real interest rate in the international capital market, where individual businesses and governments come to borrow and lend money to each other. So nations can lend out and borrow money from each other in the international capital market. Now, what is the main assumption that we are trying to use to differentiate the small open economy from the closed and from the large open economy? From the large open economy rather. Key assumption is residents of a small open economy can borrow or lend the money at the expected world real interest rate, and we assume that small open economies transactions are not going to affect the world real interest rate. It means that real interest rate would stay the same. So let's go back to, before I just come to this, I need to show you how does it works. So we are saying this, we last idea that we discussed is that the world real interest rate, which is not affected by small open economies, lending and borrowing, is equal to the interest rate that is available. Like the domestic interest rate will always be equal to RD, which is the domestic real interest rate, will always be equal to the interest rate that is available in the world market, right? So we are trying to represent a case of a small open economy, and its equilibrium condition can be represented as a small open economy will be in equilibrium when the desired savings are equivalent to desired investment plus net lending. So nx is equal to net lending. So you can alternatively write this equation as equation, let's say if we call it f, you can write f, all right. So you can write f as the net lending is equal to, which we call can write this desired savings. The gap between desired savings and investment is equal to net lending. Net lending are current account surplus. So we would call it G, equation G. So this would be our equilibrium condition. It would look like this. So now let's represent it this. Before I start, let's assume some value of world real interest rate. Suppose that world real interest rate is 6%. Now, it means that interest rate available in the domestic economy for borrowers and lenders is also equal to 6%. So international, in the whatever the interest rate in the international capital market is, it will be followed by domestic lenders and borrowers. So now let's represent it. Now we'll be using the equilibrium condition to show the diagram of small open economy. All right. What does this mean? If we have to show it here, desired savings and desired investment on the horizontal axis, and the expected real interest rate will be on vertical axis. So we would be having investment curve as usual, it is negative slope, and the saving curve as positive slope, like we had in a closed economy. But the real interest rate is 6%. Let's say the world interest rate is somewhere here. So this is 6%. This is equal to RW, the world real interest rate. Now at this interest rate, the because interest rate is larger than the closed economy's real interest rate. So if we have to place closed economy's interest rate, it is equal to 4%. But in real or in small open economy, the real interest rate we assume is 6%. So at 6% interest rate, investment is, let's say, this much. This is 1 billion, and desired savings at 6% interest rate is, let's say, 5 billion, right? So this is 5 billion. Desired saving is 5 billion. Now you can see that at this world real interest rate 6%, which is fixed, the small open economy, you need to find out whether the small open economy is in equilibrium when the world real interest rate is 6%. uh, when the world real interest rate is 6%, the desired savings are greater than desired investment. Now Can we call this an equilibrium or not? This is something useful. Now, even if the we earlier in the beginning of the chapter we said that it is not necessary that desired savings must always need to be equal to the desired investment. That was the condition for the closed economy. But for the open economy, the desired savings may not be always equal to desired investment, because we earlier said that in every production period the aggregate demand may be larger than the aggregate supply in an open economy, and aggregate supply may be larger than the aggregate demand. So here, when the at the world real interest rate when the real interest rate is 6%, small open economy is basically a net lender in the international market, because 5 billion is the amount of money that is available for lending, and this 1 billion is the amount of money that will be used in the domestic economy. Now, how would this economy be said to be in equilibrium? Because we know that the equilibrium condition that we wrote above is like this. The equilibrium condition that we wrote above is desired saving is 1 billion. Sorry, desired investment is 1 billion. So desired investment is 1 billion, and desired saving is equal to the 5 billion. So what the gap between desired savings and desired investment is equal to net lending, NX, right? So desired saving is 5 minus 1 is equal to 4 billion. So 4 billion would be the net lending. So you can see it from the diagram as well. uh, if we go back to the diagram, we can see that at world real interest rate of 6%, small open economy is also in equilibrium, uh, even when the desired savings are not equal to desired investment. What does this mean? Discussion before I take the break. All right. So at 6% world real interest rate, the country is the desired savings are greater than desired investment. Even then, the economy is in open economy is in equilibrium. So this is the important feature that you need to consider when you talk about the small open economy. Now, this small open economy observing the 6% world real interest rate uh, has larger savings than investment, and additional savings uh, can be used to lend out to other nations, right? So we can say that the country is currently running a current account surplus, and that surplus money can be used to lend out to other nation. So ultimately, at 6% interest rate, small open economy is in equilibrium, because our equilibrium condition is being satisfied, which we can see from here, that 5 minus 4, which is equal to 4, this is equal to 4. It means that our condition equilibrium condition is met. Now if you just revert the scenario, like you just turned out, now we assumed initially the country is net lender. If we assume the country is net borrower, suppose small open economy like Pakistan is a net borrower, how would its equilibrium will be, like what will be its equilibrium if the economy is initially a net lender? Again, the world real interest rate is placed on the vertical axis, like expected real interest rate, desired savings, and desired investment. All right. All right. So this is desired investment, desired savings, and the world real interest rate is now somewhere lower than the 6%, somewhere equivalent to 2%, right? So it would be like this. This is world real interest rate. So this is 2%. Earlier it was 6%. Now it has come down to uh, six two from 6% 2%. Now, what does this shows? At world real interest rate of 2%, small open economy is observed to be having smaller saving. Let's say saving is 1 billion, right? And the investment is 5 billion. Now, domestic firms require more money to produce output, because domestic firms require 4 more billion. How do I know that? Like here I can see that the investment is five aggregate desired investment at the world real interest rate of 2% is 5 billion. So I can again find out the equilibrium condition, as I know that desired saving is 1 billion. So it is equal to desired investment, which is 5, and 5 plus minus 4. So it means that for this condition shows that aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply, or you can say that investment is greater than saving in this scenario when the world real interest rate is 2% and the country is net borrower, because to fulfill this investment which firms require in the domestic economy, the home country has to borrow the difference between saving and investment. And you know that the difference between saving and investment is 1 billion is saving and 5 billion is borrowing. So the difference is 4 billion. So 4 billion will be borrowed to 4 billion will be borrowed from the capital market to fulfill the domestic demand. So you can see that even at the interest rate of 2%, open economy is said to be in equilibrium. So we can conclude that open economy can always be in equilibrium. Even मतलब ओपन इकोनॉमी कभी भी इक्विलिब्रियम में रह सकती है. ये जरूरी नहीं है कि वर्ल्ड रियल इंटरेस्ट रेट कोई भी फिक्स वैल्यू, वर्ल्ड रियल इंटरेस्ट रेट कुछ भी हो, डिजायर्ड सेविंग्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट इक्वल ना भी हो, तब भी आपकी ओपन इकोनॉमी इक्विलिब्रियम में रहती है. यहाँ पे क्या सिनेरियो क्रिएट हुआ था, डिजायर्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट लार्जर एट डिजायर्ड सेविंग से, तब भी ओपन इकोनॉमी इक्विलिब्रियम है. क्यों? क्योंकि जो जिस अमाउंट से डिजायर्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट डोमेस्टिक इकोनॉमी में रिक्वायर्ड है वो पूरी हो जाती है जब कंट्री फॉरेन से बोरोइंग करता है. और जब आप फॉरेन से बोरोइंग करते हैं तो आपको अपने एसेट सेल करने पड़ते हैं, तो उन एसेट्स के अगेंस्ट पैसा आता है और आपकी जो बोरोइंग नीड्स हैं वो पूरी हो जाती हैं. सो दिस इज हाउ द स्मॉल ओपन इकोनॉमी सेट टू बी इन equilibrium. I hope this is. So, do you got the idea of say goods market equilibrium in small open economy? And we made the assumption that small open economy is one whose international lending and borrowing does not affect the world real interest rate. So, world real interest rate would stay the same, and it would stay the same for domestic residents like domestic lender and borrowers. And it is not necessary for the open economy that desired saving must always be equal to investment. All right. So now, after understanding the idea of concept of small open economy, we can just we can show it using a numerical example as well, like we did in closed economies model. All right. So we saw how, say, a small open economy is in equilibrium even when the savings and investments are not equal to each other. Desired savings and investment are not equal to each other, right? So we earlier we assumed when the world real interest rate was 6%, the small open economy was net lender in international market. And when the world real interest rate declines from 6% to 2%, the small open economy turns out to be net borrower. And you know that the amount of net borrowing is the gap between savings and investment. Desired saving minus desired investment will tell us the amount of money that need to be borrowed for the goods market to be in equilibrium. So it means that what if we have to summarize the whole idea of equilibrium of a small open economy, we would say that if in a small open economy, whatever the world real interest rate is, if the desired savings are larger than investment, then the country can export the gap between, the country can lend out the gap between savings and investment. And if the country is if the small open economy is initially a net borrower, whatever the world real interest rate is, if the small open economy is net borrower, the gap between saving and investment is the net borrowing, and it's the value by which the current account is going to get into surplus, sorry, into deficit. Because when a country is net borrower, it means that a country can only borrow by selling off domestic assets. So funds will come into the country, and why when the desired saving is lower than desired investment, like here in this scenario, it means that aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply, and the country is running a current account deficit, and which will be offset by the current financial and capital and financial account surplus. So we will look into it. All right, so this is the result. What is the result? RW may be such that desired savings are larger than desired investment, and desired investment saving must equal to desired investment, or desired saving is less than desired investment. So this second condition is for the closed economy. Now this is the explanation. If desired saving is larger than desired investment, the excess desired saving over desired investment is lent internationally, which we call net foreign lending, and it is net foreign lending is positive, or we can say that net export or current account surplus is positive. If this is so, then it means that there's no net foreign lending, and import export are also zero. You can see saving and investment is used to describe international lending and borrowing, and the net export is used to describe the import and export of goods and services. This is how these two are interconnected with each other. C is the third condition where the desired saving is less than desired investment at any world real interest rate lower than the equilibrium real interest rate. So if we would say that interest rate is lower than the value that we have in a condition, so in even then we would observe that small open economy will be in equilibrium. Like how? If desired saving is less than desired investment, the excess desired investment over desired saving is financed by borrowing internationally. So we have earlier described it. So there would be net lending, net foreign lending is negative, or net borrowing will be positive, and NX will be negative in that scenario. Sorry. Now we'll be having alternative interpretation in terms of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. How does it looks like? So if you just look at this table, where we are trying to find out the goods market equilibrium using both ways. We earlier used saving investment. Now we'll be considering aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Now in this table on the left side, we have gross domestic product Y20 as given. This is fixed. This is supply, aggregate supply, and government purchases are also fixed at 4 billion. Now effects of real interest rate on desired consumption and investment. So world real interest rate is given as percentage in the third column, and desired consumption, like all these columns are representing the values of world real interest rate and consumption and desired investment. So if we would follow from the third column, which represents the desired real interest rate of 6%, this much. So if the desired real interest rate is 6%, or we would say the world economy has got interest rate of 6%, you would find out that at this interest rate of 6%, desired investment is 1 billion, and desired national saving can be calculated as desired national saving at 6% interest rate is 5. How we got this number? We just subtracted Y, which is 20 billion, minus the minus CD minus G. So 20 billion is gross domestic product, 11 billion is consumption, and government purchase is 4 billion. So 20 minus 15 is 5. So we have got desired national savings of 5 when the real interest rate is 6. So you would find out if you just subtract desired savings 5 minus 1, you would get the net desired net lending. So desired net lending at 6% interest rate is 4 here. So now this is the same value we got from the diagram and the condition that we described earlier. Now if you would look at this same equilibrium from desired absorption and aggregate demand, what you would equate at 6% interest rate, the sum of consumption, aggregate investment, and government purchases is 16. How would I got this number? Like how do I get this number? If I add consumption, investment plus government purchase, like at 6% interest rate, consumption, aggregate consumption, desired consumption is 11, investment is 1, which means 12, and government purchase is 4. So 11 plus 4 is 15 plus 1 16. So here I got value of 16, which is desired aggregate demand or desired absorption. So 20 is gross domestic product and 16 is desired absorption. It means that small open economy has got 4 billion capacity to export or 4 billion capacity to lend out the money to foreigners. So you can see that we earlier got desired lending of 4. So at world real interest rate of 6%, the small open. All right. So at world real interest rate of 6%, desired absorption came out 16 by adding up desired consumption, desired investment, and government purchase at that 6%. So we added these three values, 11 plus 1 plus 4. We got 16. And you know that 20 supply is greater than demand. So 4 billion will be lent out abroad, or you can find out net export as Y minus desired absorption. Y is 20, desired absorption is 16. We got 4 as a net export, current account surplus, or net lending of 4 billion. So all three are equal. Net lending, net exports, current account surplus, all are equal. Now if you just consider second column where the world real interest rate is lower than 6%, when the world real interest rate decreases, investment would go up, consumption would go up, and saving would fall. Now this is the theoretical idea. You can verify this idea from these numbers. When the world real interest rate declines from 6 to 4%, the desired consumption increases from 11 to 13, and desired investment increases from 1 to 3, right? But if you find out the desired saving would be Y minus CD minus G. Y is 20, CD is 13 at interest rate of 4%, and G is 4. So 13 plus 4, 17. 17, 20 minus 17 is 3. So desired saving is 3. And you can see that at world real interest rate of 4%, desired national saving is equal to desired investment. So you can clearly see that there would be desired absorption is equal to aggregate demand. So 20 is equal to 20. Desired absorption at world real interest rate is 20. How we got this number? 13 consumption, 3 investment, 4 government spending. 13 plus 3 16, 16 plus 4 20. So at world real interest rate of 4, desired absorption came out 20. So 20 minus 20, which is equal to what? Net export. So net exports are 0. And you can see the gap between desired savings and investment are same. So net lending is 0 at world real interest rate of 4%. But if you just consider another world real interest rate here as 2, which is lower, even lower than the 4. So there would be, if the world real interest rate declines, there would be an increase in the desired consumption by the domestic resident and desired investment by the businesses in the home country. So if you would consider here the desired All right. So I was telling you, what if the world real interest rate declines further from 4% to 2%? You would find out if the interest rate declines, the consumption and investment would go up, which means that aggregate absorption would go up if we have kept the government spending fixed to 4. You can see that when the interest rate declines from 4 to 2% in the world economy, for the small open economy, consumption of the individual and the investment would go up. You can see that 15 is the aggregate consumption and 5 is the aggregate investment. And you would find out the desired national saving by subtracting desired the output from output. You would subtract consumption and government purchase from the output. So this is 15 plus 14 15 plus 4 19, 20 minus 19 will give us the value of desired national savings at an interest rate of 2%. So desired saving is 1 and desired investment is 5. It means that domestic businesses require more money uh, uh, than available in the domestic economy. So how they will get the money? They will borrow from abroad, and you can find out borrowing by either subtracting the difference between desired savings and investment at a world real interest rate of 2%. You can see that desired saving is 1 minus 5. It will give us a negative 4, which means that 4 billion will be borrowed by the domestic businesses to satisfy their investment demand. Again, the desired absorption would be equal to the net lending, because 20 is aggregate supply, and if you just find out the desired absorption at 2%, you would add desired consumption, desired investment plus the government purchases. So 4 is the government purchases, desired absorption is 15, which makes a sum of 19. 19 plus 5 desired investment is 24. And you can clearly see that at world real interest rate of 2%, desired absorption, which is 24, is greater than the aggregate supply of 20. So it means that country need to import of 4 billion is required. You would find out that nx negative means country is importing more than what it has exported. So small open economy can be in equilibrium at any world real interest rate. अच्छा जी, नेट एक्सपोर्ट जो है वो इक्वल होते हैं नेट फॉरेन लैंडिंग के, और नेट फॉरेन लैंडिंग जो है इक्वल होती है करंट अकाउंट बैलेंस के। तो नेट एक्सपोर्ट अगर पॉजिटिव है तो नेट फॉरेन लैंडिंग ज्यादा होगी, और नेट फॉरेन लैंडिंग ज्यादा होगी तो इसका मतलब है करंट अकाउंट सरप्लस में। सो ये इस तरह से आपस में तीनों चीजें कनेक्टेड हैं। अगर हम ये अस्यूम करें कि करंट अकाउंट सिर्फ नेट एक्सपोर्ट्स के इक्वल है, नेट फैक्टर पेमेंट्स और यूनिलेटरल ट्रांसफर दोनों हम जीरो अस्यूम कर चुके हैं पहले से। अच्छा, अब जब आपको इक्विलिब्रियम समझ आ गया तो उसके बाद हमारी डिस्कशन जो है इट गोज इनटू द डायरेक्शन ऑफ analyzing the impacts of economic shocks in a small open economy. So I'll be better at using whiteboard. So let's go back. So now we are going to talk about effects of economic shocks in a small open economy. Like if economy is hit by a shock, if a small open economy is hit by a shock, like how does it affects the overall goods market equilibrium? Economic shocks in a small open economy. Sorry for the writing. Economic shocks in a small open economy, right? So I'll be considering, let's say, if we talk about in general, like what kind of shocks generally economies go through. Uh, Flood is an economic shock, generally which disrupts the supply of an economy. And when supply production is disrupted, ultimately demand is also going to be affected. Uh, Similarly, COVID-19 itself is a economic shock for the global economies. Uh, uh, it has initially it has disrupted the supply, and demand is also disrupted. For example, if we assume COVID-19 as a temporary shock, shock. So it means if it is temporary, it is going to affect the supply in the country, because when the COVID-19 started, because of lockdown, all the businesses had to shut down, right? And when they are shut down, there would be no production, and when there is no production, there would be when there is no production, there would be no income. Or if we say that income would fall in response to COVID-19, and when the income fall, a fraction of income is saved, so saving is going to fall. And when the saving is going to fall, the amount that the country could lend to other countries, or the amount that the country could use to pay for additional import, would also fall. So this is how the economic shocks are going to affect the small open economies. Now, this was a practical example that I used. But if you just refer to your book, the book has provided an example where a small open economy is hit by a drought. Drought means kehat, right? Uh, when a small open economy is hit by a drought, right? So when a small open economy is hit by a drought, so that particular drought is counted as adverse supply shock. Adverse means negative supply shock. It will be reducing the income of the uh, production and income of the economy. So in response to that drought, the income went down. Overall national income went down, and when the income is going to get down, savings are going to get savings in an economy, desired savings are going to fall, which indirectly means that net exports of an economy is going to fall, which is equivalent to seeing that net lending will fall. And this is also equivalent to seeing that current account surplus will fall, or current account will be in deficit. So this is how you need to form a theory in a small open economy to show this idea uh, using a graph. Before I represent it on a graph, you need to understand that a drought which disturbs or disrupts the supply in the economy ultimately disturbs the overall aggregate income in the economy. And when the income is affected, a fraction of income is saved, so saving would be lower. And when savings are low, when savings in an economy, the stock of saving in the economy is going to be lower in the country cannot pay for uh, added imports, so its net exports are going to fall, and which indirectly means that country is going to be having lower capacity to lend out money to other nations, and which is equivalent to saying that current account surplus will be falling, and or the current account would turn out to be in deficit. This is how international lending and borrowing and international trade are connected, and how an economic shock, which we say a drought, or let's say if we say it's a similar shock like COVID-19. So COVID-19 has also disrupted the production in all the world economies. In here we are specifically focusing on small open economy. So GDPs of all the country is forecasted to decrease in by because of this shock. When the income decreases, fraction of income that is saved will also decline. Uh, Countries have lesser ability to pay for their imports, so their net exports are going to fall. And in response to COVID-19 shock, and their capacity to lend other nations is also going to fall. They do not have more funds to lend out or invest uh, in other countries, ultimately which will bring a decline in current account surplus, or it will lead to a current account deficit. So this is how uh, uh, a drought or a similar shock can hit the economy. Let's represent it using a diagram. So this is desired savings and desired investment, again the same, and we have interest rate. So this is desired investment and desired saving. Suppose that the world real interest rate is somewhere here. Again, considering it as a at 6%. So at 6%, uh, you know that at 6% investment is lower than savings. So it means that country is initially a net lender in the international market. Country is what? Country is international. Country is lender in the international capital market. How do I know this? Because at 6% interest rate, investment is lower than saving, or saving is greater than investment. So it means that this small open economy has more funds to lend out to other nations before the shock hits it, right? Before the shock hits the economy, it is in equilibrium, and the country is known to be a lender in the international capital market because it has got more savings relative to investment. Now let's consider the impact of COVID-19 or similar shock which disrupts the supply. When the supply decreases, production income both goes down, and in response to decline in income, saving curve is going to desired savings are going to decline, which ultimately decreases the net export. So if we have to represent net exports here, we would show that, or the net lending, we can say that the difference between A and B was earlier lent out to other nation, because this difference is the difference between savings and investment. A and the gap between A and B is saving and investment. So earlier, before the economy was hit by a shock, the gap between saving and investment was AB. So AB is the amount of AB distance is basically the NX or net lending, right? Now, after the shock, this amount of this amount would fall, because in response to COVID-19, all the businesses went shut down, and there was lower production. The firms were producing output on and off because there was lesser demand from the consumers in the economy. So in response to decline in income, why it's not, yes. In response to decline in income, saving is going to fall. So the saving curve would shift backward. So saving a decline in desired savings from, let's say, ST1 to ST2, a decline in saving would ultimately reduce the amount of money lent abroad, right? So you can see that earlier the gap was earlier the gap was earlier the gap was AB. Now the gap has turned out to be, let's say, at this after the shock, savings declined. So the gap has declined from AB to, let's say, AD. So now the new lending, the capacity of an economy to lend out money to other countries, or to finance the current account, has declined because of an economic shock. And that economic shock initially resulted in lower income, which resulted in lower savings, and lower savings translated into lower net export, lower net lending, and current account a decline in current account surplus. So this is how economic shocks affect the small open economy. So this is one idea. If we try to So we can also represent a positive supply shock. Now, how do I be considering a positive supply shock in a small open economy? Positive supply shock may be something that will bring increase in investment by the businesses. Positive supply shock, right? So positive supply shock in a small open economy. What would be the context of discussion? Maybe sometimes in small open economies, a technological change is observed, right? A technological improvement is observed, which ultimately multiplies the productivity of capital. And whenever you know that whenever the capital gets more productive, businesses are going to increase their demand for capital by investing more. So desired investment would go up, and when the desired investment would go up, it means that it requires more funds into the domestic economy. So the current account surplus, or the net lending would fall. You can see that you can say whenever the technological improvement takes place, it multiplies the productivity of expected future margin product of capital, which causes firms to invest more. And when the firms are willing to invest more, it means they require more funds. And when funds are used in the domestic economy, there would be lesser funds available to be lent out to any other economy. So net export would fall. Net export would fall in response to it, and the current account surplus will also fall. Net lending will also fall. How we can represent this situation in a diagram? We would say that. All right. We are assuming that again the interest rate is at world real interest rate is 6%, which is fixed. Now, what is happening? Technological change is making capital more productive, which is making firm invest more on capital. And when domestic firms are willing to invest more on capital, the investment demand will increase. So earlier, the amount of money that was available to be lent to abroad was the difference between AB, or the current account surplus was this much. Now, after the technological improvement, which caused firms to demand more capital by investing more, investment curve would shift upward. Investment curve would shift upward this way, and you can see that investment demand would increase from ID1 to ID2. Now, in response to it, the amount that was available for lending out abroad has decreased from AB to, let's say, AF. So this is the amount that is available for lending abroad. Now, after the technological, now this is a positive supply shock, which is causing businesses and firms to invest more to product to produce more output. And when investment is going up, ultimately investment is causing uh, a decline in net lending, and current account surplus also fall. So this is the impact of positive supply shock. Earlier we represented the impact of negative supply shock. But one thing you need to note here, I assume that country is initially a net lender rather than a borrower. If it would have been a net borrower, then the scenario would be different. लग गया। इसके बाद जो हमारी डिस्कशन है, क्योंकि स्मॉल ओपन इकोनॉमी में चेंजेस भी आपने देख लिए, उसके इक्विलिब्रियम का प्रोसेस भी समझ लिया। अब हम So what we are saying is, we what we are saying is a large open economy is one that is large enough to affect the world real interest rate. We assume that suppose there are two economies in the world economies, both are large. Home country, there like there's one economy known as domestic economy and another one is foreign economy. The world real interest rate will be adjusted according to international lending and borrowing among between those economies, right? So you can see it here in this diagram. I would try to draw it on the whiteboard as well. But for now, you just need to look at here. So on the left panel, we have home country. In the right panel, we have foreign country. If we consider 6% interest rate, at 6% interest rate, uh, home country is having a desired investment of 150 and savings of 450. So the gap between 450 and 150 is how much? 300 billion. And this is net lending. This is 3 billion. This 3 billion amount is available to the home country to be lent abroad. Now, if we see the lending and borrowing of uh, an economy which is foreign economy at world real interest rate of 6%, you can see that at 6% interest rate, foreign economy is a borrowing economy because at 6% interest rate, the saving is lower than investment. So how much saving is lower than investment? In the foreign country, 100 billion is the invest saving and investment is 650. So it means that the gap between saving and investment into the foreign economy is of like 550, right? So it means that foreign economy requires more amount of money than the home country is willing to lend out. So like so it means that 6% is not the world real interest rate. But uh, if we just consider 5% real interest rate, you would see that in home country investment is 200 billion and saving is 400 billion. So when the real interest rate world real interest rate decline, investment decline sorry investment increased from 150 to 200 because of the decrease in user cost, and savings declined from 400 to 450 to 400. So it means that the gap between saving and investment in home country is 200. At the same interest rate, 5% for the foreign economy, saving is 500 and investment is saving 700. And the gap between saving and investment is 200. So it means that at a world real interest rate of 5%, the amount that home country is willing to lend is equivalent to the amount foreign country is willing to borrow. So it means that at 5% interest rate, the international lending and borrowing are equal. So we would call 5% interest rate as the world real interest rate that clears the uh, goods market of home country and foreign country. So are we